Thank you very much for that, well, for inviting me and for that glowing endorsement of my energetic approach, if that's what it is. But certainly what I try and convey, because it was a year ago. Well, good morning to all of you. I'm really pleased that you're all here. I'm pleased that this event is taking place. I'm sorry that I am only here for the beginning of the day, but it's a fantastic programme, and I hope you all find it interesting and insightful. I just want to say some words of introduction. The Foreign Secretary, many of you will have been in the room, gave the Canning House lecture, not in Canning House, that would be a sort of a trick question in years to come, but gave the Canning House lecture a year ago where he stated the intention of our then fairly new government to re-engage much more energetically with Latin America than has been the case in the past. And the rationale for that, I think, was compelling, and he laid it out very clearly that evening. And we look at Latin America, and we see, and I always say this, you know, a slightly forgotten continent by not just British government. I think the British government, in some ways, has performed reasonably well, but could perform better, and that's what we're trying to do. But the British Parliament, British media, British business, for me, have underplayed Latin America, and in so much as they have been willing to look beyond Europe and North America, they have tended to look in recent years east to Asia rather than southwest to South America, Central America. And so we want to try and correct that imbalance. And the story that Latin America has to tell is a very strong one. It has a bigger middle class than China and India combined. It is a country which is, I think, receptive to our ideas, receptive to our businesses, is at a stage of development where it's a very compatible fit with Britain, and we can and should and are doing more there. And just as an indication, I don't want, you know, ministerial visits aren't the only measurement of government activity, sadly, because otherwise probably we'd be doing well. But it's I've just come back from Mexico, Panama and Costa Rica last week. I think I personally have made more visits to Latin American countries in the last year and a half than everybody in the whole of the last government did in the year and a half before the last general election. And when I run them off, it sounds like I'm showing off, but I've been to large numbers of countries, and it's not just the big, you know, Brazil and Mexico. Obviously they're the two biggest economies, the two most important countries in that way, but I've also been to Uruguay and Ecuador and Bolivia and Panama and Guatemala and Costa Rica, so some of the smaller countries as well. Deputy Prime Minister has undertaken very successful visits to Mexico and Brazil. We are opening a new embassy in El Salvador in the first half of next year. I'm planning next month to go to Recife. I've never been to the northern part of Brazil before, because we're opening a new consulate there, and we are putting extra members of staff into the large and medium-sized countries across the continent, with a particular emphasis on trade and prosperity. So we're making pretty good progress. Our targets to double trade within the 5 years of our British Parliament with Mexico and Brazil are on track. We have already seen substantive increases. I see just in this year, UK exports to Brazil have increased by 15% and to Mexico by 13%. 20 British companies have won contracts relating to the 2014 Football World Cup and the 2016 Rio Olympics, both of course taking place in Brazil. And we've signed important cooperation agreements on areas like education, energy and culture. So the relationship is not just about business and commerce or about politics, it's a much broader relationship than that. But we want to see it go broader still, so I hope we will see more work in the year ahead on science and innovation, on education. There's a very strong demand across large parts of Latin America for improving education standards and partnering Britain in that process, including English language. Environmental growth, there's a very strong environmental consciousness across Latin America, and we feel that many of the green technologies that are being pioneered, in some cases here in Britain, will be of interest to large numbers of people and organisations across Latin America. And I'd like us to do more with universities, with scientific collaboration. Again, it sort of strikes me quite a bit that universities who are willing to be adventurous and go far afield seem to get on a plane and instinctively fly towards China, which is understandable. China's the second biggest economy in the world now. But I want more of those to also look at the opportunities that Latin America provides. Brazil, for example, is seen as a world power in terms of medical research, but there are experts, scientists and academics across Latin America that we could benefit from not just imparting knowledge to, but learning from and having a genuine partnership with as well. I think we also know that there are issues of concern. The political transformation in the last generation in Latin America has been remarkable. It is a great success story, underappreciated success story, in my view, in terms of the debate that takes place in Britain. But it is not a completed success story, and there are still concerns about standards of governance in some countries. There are certainly concerns about security, about violent crime, about disruption through drugs and organised gangs. And of course they are a problem and a blight for the people who live in those countries, but they're also a barrier to trade and economic growth in those countries as well. There are concerns about protectionist measures. I think it's fair to say, and I genuinely think it's fair to say, that Britain is one of the most open economies, one of the most free trade-minded countries in the world. And I always say to foreign governments anywhere in the world, I don't want you to buy this product because it's a British product. I want you to buy the best product. But if the British product is the best product, I don't want them to miss out on the contract because the market is rigged in favour of somebody else. And so we are wanting genuine competition, and there are areas of Latin America where we feel that there are still barriers to entry and where competition could be improved. But I don't want to end on a sort of negative note. I am hugely enthusiastic about what is happening in Latin America as a continent. It is an energizing continent. It's a continent that is going very strongly in the right direction. It has a much bigger place to play, role to play on the world stage, a bigger place. And I think that we in Britain are waking up to that, led in many regards by Canning House, who are doing a fantastic job. And conferences like this one today, or President Santos from Colombia, who is giving the Canning House lecture here in London in a few weeks' time, adding to the status of Canning House, but just as importantly, adding to the consciousness, I hope, among the British political and informed classes about the place that Latin America has on the world stage today. So thank you for inviting me. Have a good day, and I hope that this will be another leap forward in Britain's increasingly productive relationship with the whole of Latin America.